Hello everyone, it's time for Good Week Israel, where we will give you ILTV's latest positive highlights. So get ready to smile because coming up, Israel's judokas take silver and bronze at the European Championships in Lisbon. Israeli researchers reveal a potential breakthrough in a cure for brain cancer, and we'll learn how to make Israeli stewed beans, so stay tuned. First of all, congratulations to Israel's judokas who took home a silver and bronze medal at the European Championships in Lisbon. Toar Butbul won a silver medal after making it to the final and losing his final in the men's under 73 kilogram category to his opponent from Kosovo. Shortly afterwards, Sagi Muki defeating his Bulgarian opponent Ivanov to win the bronze in the men's under 81 kilogram category. And a day earlier, Geffen Primo claimed another bronze medal for women under 52 kilograms. Now, writing on Twitter, thank you for making us so proud. In other news, the coronavirus mask mandate in Israel is over, but Israelis are feeling a bit exposed as they apprehensively reveal their pretty faces. And as it turns out, there may be a good reason. Chana Rifkin with the story.
Being without a mask for the first time in a long time, it feels weird, but it's a very good weird. It's like being with the mask is like part of me for a really long time. So being with that, it's weird but good. And even though you need to be with masks indoors, it's hard and annoying, but if I need to be with masks indoors to finish with it, so I'll do everything I can.
For me, to get out without mask, it's like a holiday. It's like a future, and I want this day will be good news for all the world, and all the world will go after Israel.
For the first time in over a year, Israel's official mask mandate has been lifted, and citizens are apprehensive but excited to express their newfound freedom, even if it is limited to small groups in outdoor settings, especially as authorities warning that the pandemic could return at any moment. Prime Minister Netanyahu outlining the details of the heavily eased restrictions.
אנחנו מובילים כרגע את העולם ביציאה מהקורונה, והחידוש של הלימודים גם בחטיבת הביניים בצורה מלאה זה סימן מובהק לכך. יש שני דברים שאני רוצה להדגיש. אחד, עוד לא נפטרנו מהמסכות. זאת אומרת, בתוך המבנים, בתוך הכיתות, חובשים מסכות. בחוץ אפשר להוריד אותם, גם כן בהמלצה של חבישתן במהלך התקהלויות, אבל באופן כללי, בפנים מסכות. בחוץ אפשר להוריד. הדבר השני הוא שעדיין לא סיימנו עם הקורונה, משום שהיא יכולה לחזור.
That said, there may be an additional unintended benefit to all the face coverings, aside from reducing the rate of infection. Officials at the Sheba Medical Center reporting a whopping 65% drop in hospitalizations of severe asthma patients and a 45% drop in the number of asthma-related urgent visits to the ER. And this as 80 to 90% of all asthma referrals are connected to allergies. So speaking with the Jerusalem Post, author of the study, Professor Nancy Agmon-Levin, saying it's a nice idea that you can decrease exacerbation from pollen with something that costs 90 agurot, or about 25 cents, as opposed to the drugs that are typically prescribed, drugs that are very expensive and often come with adverse effects. Therefore, if you're one of the 30% of Israelis who suffer from allergies, maybe keep that mask on for just a little while longer.
In other news, International Earth Day is just a couple days away, and this year, with literally tons of PPE like masks and gloves still littering the streets, in addition to plastic bottles, bags, single-use cutlery, and a recent coastal oil spill, there's a lot of work to be done. So for Israel's part, environmental organizations are launching the 1 Million Clean campaign, inviting citizens from all over the country to join in a mass nationwide cleanup.
Hundreds of millions of people around the world are feeling very connected emotionally to this land, to the Holy Land. But Israel, the last years, were very, very dirty. We decided to lead a campaign to clean up the country and to change the awareness of the citizens of Israel and the visitors towards the dirt and the cleaning.
As part of the campaign, hundreds of previously unemployed Israelis have been hired to clean up the parks and the nature reserves, a job that they describe as a pleasure to be a part of. And on Earth Day later this week, tens of thousands of volunteers are already registered to join them. The hope being that 1 million volunteers will soon be included. So if you're interested in getting in on the action, sign up with the Nature and Parks Authority. And in general, remember the golden rule for the future: always leave the places you visit better than when you found them. It's the essence of tikkun olam, or the practice of healing the world. Now, incredible news in the field of oncology. Researchers at Tel Aviv University revealing a potential breakthrough in the search for a cure for brain cancer. Let's take a look at ILTV interview with Professor Ronit Sachi-Fainaro, director of the Cancer Biology Research Center and the head of the Cancer Research and Nanomedicine Laboratory at Tel Aviv University's Sackler Faculty of Medicine. Professor, thank you so much for being with us. Now, in plain terms, what did you discover?
Hi, good afternoon. What we discovered was that glioblastoma cells, those are the cancer cells in a very aggressive brain tumor, communicate with the immune cells in the brain and basically corrupt them for their own benefit, meaning that instead of the immune systems attacking the cancer cells and not allowing them to spread in the brain and grow in mass, they do exactly the opposite. Once they are corrupted and re-educated by the glioblastoma cells, they become partners, they become assets to help them and recruit blood vessels and allow them to spread and invade the brain tissue. And our main question was, how do they do that? And we know that cells in general communicate by proteins that they express. And we set to look for which protein is the one in charge or one of the main drivers of this communication. And we found p-selectin to be one of 500 proteins that is responsible for these interactions. And basically, when we inhibited it, when we blocked that, we blocked these tight, intimate interactions and sabotage the relationship of the cancer cells with the normal cells in the brain, not allowing them to help promote and progress this cancer.
So how did you go about doing this? Because you just mentioned that there were 500, I'm assuming even more proteins that are being expressed here. How did you narrow it down to one?
Well, we looked at models of brain cancer, of this aggressive brain cancer in animals, in mice, and we compared it to hundreds of slides of patients, of glioblastoma in patients. Moreover, we collaborated with neurosurgeons from Tel Aviv Medical Center, and we got, from the surgery room, we got a chunk of the tumor. The rest goes, of course, to pathology. We do it under consent forms, and patients know that it is going for research. And we stain that protein, and indeed we saw that our predictions that this protein is overexpressed, it is indeed communicating between the glioblastoma cells and the microglia, those immune cells. And we see that something is different about this immune system, immune cells in the brain, from normal brains, healthy brains. We got healthy brains from Johns Hopkins and the Liber Institute. And once they provided us, we could compare and see that this protein is not present in the brain if there is no glioblastoma, and it rises up in its amounts only when the glioblastoma cells are present and communicating and activating those immune cells in the brain, but in a negative way. Instead of inhibiting the process as any pathology, they support it and allow them to grow and spread in the brain.
Wow. All right. Well, I know that there are a huge number of different cancers. And so, first of all, I'm very excited to hear about this really exciting research and discovery that you've made. And hopefully it can lead to more breakthroughs in other types of cancer. In the meantime, Professor Sachi-Fainaro, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Now, are you thinking of immigrating to Israel? Well, do you need legal advice? Take a look.
The process and qualifications for making aliyah can vary depending on where you come from. For example, Russian nationals' status may differ based on whether they're seeking to relocate from the US or from Russia. Now here to give us some legal advice on what to expect is Irena Rosenberg from Cohen, Decker, Pex, and Broche Law Offices, who specializes in immigration. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
So from which countries do you get most of these inquiries, and who is eligible to apply?
We get the inquiries from all over the world, but most of the inquiries are from Russia, Ukraine, and the United States.
Interesting. And how does that process differ between the US, Russia, and Europe?
So first of all, I have to notice that Jews, as well as their children and grandchildren, are eligible to get Israeli citizenship based on the law of return. So the processes are different for Jews and their children and grandchildren if the person has Russian citizenship or US citizenship. If the person has US citizenship, he has to provide the Jewish agency, which is reviewed the eligibility of this person. He has to provide the Jewish agency with the letter from the recognized rabbi stating that this person is Jewish or that this person has Jewish roots. So if we are speaking about Russian citizens, in this case, the person has to turn to the consular department native and to provide the official documents with the nationality stating that this person has Jewish ancestors.
And what happens if the applicant was born in Russia but has American citizenship?
In this case, the person has to provide the consular department native with the document stating that he has Jewish ancestors, and it has to be official original documents. And for many Americans, it's a really shock because many of them, they moved to the United States in very, very early age, and many of them, they even don't speak Russian. So in such cases, we help to these people to get to restore the documents from Russia in order to get Aliyah.
So you obviously deal with a lot of unique cases. Can you perhaps give us an example of a particularly complicated case that you overcame and found solutions for?
We have a lot of cases where we have to restore the documents for American citizens who are originally Russian. Most of the cases, 99.9%, we successfully restore the documents, and we successfully win the cases and help to our clients.
Great. Irena Rosenberg, thank you very much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And now Danielle from kosher.com brings us another great recipe for her family favorites, Israel stewed beans. See how she makes this vegetarian dish and how she turns the leftovers into a hearty, delectable soup.
Hey kosher.com, I'm Danielle from Peas Loving Carrots, back again with another cook it once, serve it twice dinner. I'm super excited about this one because it is vegetarian. I know that sounds crazy, like no, it has to be dairy or it has to be meat for dinner, but no, it doesn't. It could be vegetarian and it could be satisfying and it could be delicious. This is actually one of my kids' favorite meals. It's kind of a nod to my Israeli homeland, but it's really delicious, and I'm gonna show you how to repurpose it into a serve it twice dinner that can be parve, dairy, or meat. Let's just jump right in. The first thing we need to do is we need to get these beans soaked overnight. So yes, it does take a little bit of forethought, but let me just show you. It's as simple as that. Boom, no saran wrap, nothing. Take this, leave it on your counter, walk away. Oh my gosh, all my prep work, done. Bye, see you later. Bloop, bloop, bloop. It's the next day. Our beans are soaked overnight. You can see they got nice and plump, which means they absorbed a lot of the water and they will take much less time to cook. So now I'm just gonna get these drained off, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make our shu'it, which is how you say beans in Israel. And it's a very traditional Israeli tomatoey, brothy stewed beans that we eat with rice, and it's delicious. Hot, medium, high heat. Once your pot gets nice and hot, we're gonna go in with 2 tablespoons of oil, our onion, a pinch of salt because we want to get these sauteing, and a little bit of pepper. If you don't want pepper, you could leave it out. We're going to give this a quick stir. And we're going to let these cook for about 5 to 6 minutes, medium-high heat, until they become translucent. Once your onions are translucent and just starting to brown, like just the very beginning, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our tomato paste. We really want to get the tomato paste in there before the other products because we want to mix it around and we want the tomato paste to have a chance to caramelize so the flavor can deepen, the color can deepen. Now we're going to go ahead, we're going to add in our paprika. Same thing as the tomato paste. We just want to let it, get nice and cozy with the hot oil in there so that it can release its flavor. And now it's time to add our soaked beans. Before we go ahead and add our water, we're going to get our beans coated with the tomato paste and the paprika. There we go. Oh my gosh. Really use your flat wooden spoon to scrape the bottom of the pan. We want to get all the flavor off the pot and into the beans. And that's really it, folks. Now we're just going to cover this with water. We're going to bring the mixture to a boil. Then we're going to reduce it to low heat. We're just going to let it simmer. After about 2 hours, it's going to be thick and rich. A lot of the water is going to be absorbed. It's going to have this bean stew kind of consistency, and it's going to be so delicious. We're going to turn off the heat. We're going to ladle this up. Yes, that is exactly what you want. You want a nice amount of beans. You want it to cover your rice, and then you could just eat it like this. It's definitely delicious, but if you want to do it right, you're going to take some tahina. You're going to drizzle it over the top. You could drizzle it over the whole thing. Personally, I like it on the side. Take a little with your spoon, take a little rice, dip it in, and then you guys know how I feel about spicy food. I love spicy food. We always have sklug in our fridge. It could be red, it could be green, it could be homemade, it could be store-bought, it could be anything. You're just gonna pile that right on top. Here it is, guys. Cook it once, serve it twice. Dinner number 1. Vegetarian, delicious, nutritious, super yum. I know, you're like thinking, what am I gonna do with the leftover beans? I'm gonna show you. Don't worry, I'm gonna show you. All right, it's the next day. We have our leftover beans. What are we gonna make? We are gonna make a minestrone soup. First things first, we need a pot. We're gonna set that to medium-high heat. We're gonna go ahead, add in our oil. And remember, we have onions in here. That's how we started this dish. So we're gonna go in with some carrots, some celery. You guys know how I feel about this. We have discussed this. Peel your celery. Take a peeler, run it down the back of the celery, or just crack the end off and peel off the strings. It will make it so much more pleasant to eat. I promise you, it will change your celery life forever. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I like celery. I know, because it's meant to be peeled. Drop in your celery. We're gonna get that just softened. It's gonna take like 3 to 4 minutes. Let's throw in a pinch of kosher salt, help that move along a little faster. Once your veggies are nice and soft, we're gonna go ahead and add some garlic, a nice amount. Like, we really want this to be flavorful, you know? Get that garlic in there, and right away, you're gonna give it a stir. That's it, the garlic is fragrant, we're ready. We can go ahead and add in our zucchini, a little bit of red wine. Music to my ears. Okay, let's get that going. Just gonna let that alcohol cook off for a minute or 2. Now we're gonna go ahead and add in our leftover bean stew. We're gonna get that mixed up and incorporated. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty already. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add in a can of tomato sauce. So we're gonna take the can, pour it in. Before we pour our vegetable stock in the stew, because right now it's a stew, right? Like, we want this to be a soup. We want to give it some liquid so that there's something for the noodles to soak up. We're just gonna pour a little bit into our can. Like, if you've ever seen your mother cook, you know how to do this, right? Boom. We just can't waste. It's not in our DNA. All right, let's pour in our stock. Now you can make this as thin or as thick as you want. I will say though, if you are going to opt to put in some sort of noodle at the end to make it a little bit heartier, you are gonna need a little bit more liquid for the noodle to absorb. Okay, that's perfect. So I used about 8 cups of broth here. I'm gonna give this a stir. I'm not gonna add any salt because we did salt the vegetables. We seasoned our bean stew very well, and these do have a fair amount of salt, so I'm gonna wait till after it comes up to a boil to taste it and adjust the seasoning. Let's give this a mix. Let's throw in a bay leaf, is my secret weapon. Anything that cooks for a long time needs a bay leaf. They're just an underutilized herb. We're gonna go ahead and start adding in our spinach. Now, you don't need to put spinach in your minestrone soup. I personally love the wilty greens in any soup. I love wilty greens all the time. So I'm gonna put in, this looks like a huge amount of spinach. It's gonna be this much spinach. So if you wanna put in your spinach and actually have some in every bite, this is how much you're actually gonna need. You'll see, so we'll put it in. It looks like a lot, it looks like a lot, it looks like a lot. Boom, our spinach is gone. That's what happens. All right, we're gonna bring our soup up to a boil. Once it's boiling, we're gonna cover the pot, lower the heat, and let the soup simmer for like a good hour. Let all the flavors develop, let everything get happy, get to know each other, get delicious. And then, here's the key. 20 minutes before you go to serve the soup, we're gonna raise the heat right back up. We're gonna bring the soup back to a boil, and we're gonna add in our pasta. We don't wanna do this now or too soon because the pasta will just keep absorbing the liquid and become mushy, and we don't want mushy pasta. We want like a really nice chew in there. So we're gonna do that at the end. All right, I brought my soup back up to a boil. I'm gonna go ahead and add my pasta. This is my favorite shape for this soup. It's like a tiny little diddolini. I don't know why, it just makes me happy. You could use whatever shape you want. I'm gonna throw those in. That's gonna take about 8 minutes to cook, and then dinner is ready. All right, it's been 12 minutes. Our noodles are perfectly al dente. Look at that, you could see everything in the soup. Carrots, zucchini, celery, the spinach, the noodle, the beans in this like really rich, delicious tomatoey broth. We're gonna plate it up. Oh my gosh. See, that's what I'm talking about. I love all forms of wilty greens. That's my favorite part of any soup. And there you go, a really delicious, super easy to make minestrone soup made from our leftover stewed beans. That's how we do it here on kosher.com at Cook It Once, Serve It Twice. I'm Danielle from Peas, Love, and Carrots. Have a great day. Bye.
All right, that is all for today's Good Week Israel. I hope that we've helped you start your week with a smile. I'm Aaron Porras. See you next week.